Just want to give my condolences to Marshawn Nealon's family and Dallas Cowboys. Good kid. I have no idea what happened, but just my condolences to those guys.
How much did you get to know him last year? I know opposite sides of the ball. What were your impressions?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys know. I like to be in the weight room, work out. You don't get a body like this naturally. So, I'm in the weight room a lot, and we spent a lot of time when he was injured and working out in the weight room. We shoot the breeze. He was a Western Michigan kid, and I coached with the Lions for a while, so we had some Michigan type stories. But good kid. Sorry to hear that about him. Yeah.
The less important note, the Taj last week. I was curious how you handled the fumble. Do you apply tough love? Do you encourage him? Do you yell at him? How you handle the immediate aftermath and then the meetings that follow in the ensuing days?
Yeah, tough case for, it was just a kid trying to make a play, excited to get a catch. And, we talked about, that defense, how, they're kind of ball hawks and really wanted to just try to take an angle and shoulder punch one guy. And instead, he cut back into four guys and they kind of held him up. And, it was a lesson learned. And, at the time of at that game, it's hard to just jump on a guy because you don't want to lose the guy. So, we just say, hey, it's time to move on to the next play and, talk about the situation. But, it's kind of a lesson learned for him.
How would you evaluate Jalen Waddle's play since Tyreek has gone down?
I think Jalen, he has always accepted his role, and whatever we asked of him to do, he's done it. And he, I think he's a pretty good receiver. Whether we had Tyreek on the other side or not, and he understands that he's going to get the main coverage rolling to him, and I think he's accepted the challenge.
Was there a mindset shift that had to happen for him after so many years where, he, obviously we want to say wide receiver one, but he did have Tyreek Hill opposite him. So was there a mindset shift to have to go back to that and really drawing all that coverage?
Yeah, I think he's accepted that challenge, and he understands that people might roll to him, or he's going to get the number one corner, whether whether they were going to put him on Tyreek or not. But yeah, he's definitely accepted that role, and he's looking forward to the challenge for the rest of the year.
One real puzzling thing has been Nick, in terms of the production has been there his whole career. There haven't been a ton of targets. Is there something he could be doing to make himself more open, or is he purely the victim of circumstance in terms of not much production?
Yeah, I think it's more of the circumstance of what's happened. There might have been times where he was a certain read in the progression, or maybe the defense took something away and left something else open. We always talk about, with the pass game, it's not just you getting open. Sometimes you got to run for the love of the game to get the assist to help your other buddies get open. Sometimes you got to do the dirty work. All of it matters. And I think it's natural to just look at the guy who caught the ball and say, yeah, he made the play, but there's a lot that goes into it.
Robert, if I can follow up on Barry's question, how much of the lack of production in terms of receptions for Nick could be a product of not having built that chemistry with Tua as a first-year player on the team?
That might have something to do it. I don't think it does, but maybe it does. Nick is definitely working hard and tries to get to the right spot, and just when the ball comes to him, let's make plays, and we'll be all right.
From a developmental standpoint, what have you seen out of Theo Weiss, and do you see him as someone who could contribute if called upon down the stretch?
Oh, definitely. There's a reason why he's on our practice squad. We talk about our practice squad guys. It's not like in college where they're just redshirting. They got to be ready to be the next man up and prepare each week. You never know that on a Thursday, Friday, we say, oh, shoot, you need to be active and get a guy up. And that's how he prepares.
His skill set that you guys like is what?
We love his size, large catching radius. He's pretty good in and out of his breaks. So, we think his development is going to be crucial for us.
What would you say are some of the factors that have gone into Malik Washington having a 6.5 yards per reception average?
Well, I think some of that has to do with, I think he showed me there was a stat where he had a 4-catch, 0-yard gain. I think definitely that's going to, affect his yards per catch. I think part of it is, he does get targeted on some of the behind the line of scrimmage receptions, and I think that affects some of it. But, we're not afraid to throw him the ball downfield either.
I want to go away from the players for a second and talk about you, because I've been interested in doing something on you and your energy. I see you sprinting, during practice and everything like that. Seeing you do the backflip. You mentioned spending time in the weight room. Where do you get that energy? And I've got a follow-up about your 60-meter hurdle success. But tell me about your energy. Where does it come from, and what do you think it does for your guys?
Well, it's probably a long time ago. I was at Fort Lewis College, I was there in 94, 95, and on that staff, it's a Division II school in Durango, Colorado, small, like near the Four Corners. And on that staff, Dave Presler was the head coach. I was the offensive coordinator. The defensive coordinator was Gus Bradley, and then our D-line coach was Todd Wash, and then we had some other guys that came through, but it was fun. It was always a battle every day, and I don't know if you know Gus Bradley, but he's kind of an energy guy, so I had to kind of match his energy on our side. And I always thought, playing, how would I want to have been coached? I want to be coached by a guy that brought, energy. And I always say, hey, you know what? You're going to know when I like it, and you're going to know when I don't like it. So, I've always kind of tried to keep that energy, and that's how I try to coach.
And tell me about your 60-meter hurdle success. National champ, right?
Yeah, so how that came about is when I went to Dallas in 2022, connected with an old high school buddy, and he was into master's track, and he's like, yeah, he goes, RP, but the thing I need to learn how to hurdle. And I said, I was a decathlete in college. I said, I could teach you how to hurdle. So we'd go out on the weekends, and I'd teach him how to hurdle. And he goes, man, you should compete. I said, I don't have time to really compete. Well, the schedule came out for the national meet, and I saw that I was going to be on spring break. And I had about 6 weeks to train. And I said, you know what, let me go ahead and train. And so I trained for it, and I did the pentathlon, and I took second in the pentathlon, and won the 60-meter hurdles.
And you going to keep doing that, or is that a matter of schedule and how the finals match up with your schedule?
Yeah, it depends on how the schedule is, but maybe it'll be something that when I retire, maybe that'll be my next deal.
You've obviously had a handful of options to replace Tyreek snaps. We've seen a little more of said recently. Mm-hmm. What's led to that? And has D been in your mind? Obviously, he's got a speed element that potentially could help.
Yeah, definitely. I think everyone in that room has something that they can bring to it, and that's the way we look at it. With Ced, what was great about Ced is he's been in the system before, and to come back, he just had to dust off some of the cobwebs. So he picked up the system pretty quickly. We like Ced, smart player, kind of like Nick, has good hands, can do some of the dirty work. So it was a great addition. With D, like you said, he does bring the speed, and we talked about how he made this team. It's like he was trying to kill himself during training camp of how hard he was working, and we were saying there's no way we can let this guy out of the building. So he brings the speed element. Obviously, Taj brings the speed element. So we got kind of a mix of guys in that room.